My idea what for Star Wars Episode 8 should be. Let's start off with who the main protagonist and main antagonist are going to be. The two main protagonists that I'm thinking of are Rey herself and Mara Jade Skywalker. I already made a video about how I think Mara Jade Skywalker should be brought into canon, so y'all can just check that video out. This is the part of that video where I am going to kind of like take a pause on this and just explain Mara Jade Skywalker for a little bit. I think I know how Disney could make Mara Jade Skywalker canon. And this one idea could also fix a lot of the mistakes that Disney has made with the sequel trilogy. So we know that Luke was training Ben Solo, right? Well, what if he was also training his daughter, Mara Jade Skywalker? After Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren burned down the entire Jedi thing, Mara is unfortunately caught in the crossfire. However, she doesn't completely die. Comes close to dying, but doesn't really die. Luke looks for her, finds her, and uses Force Heal to bring her back, but in the process uses a lot of his power. After that, Mara says to him, "You used a lot of power bringing me back. If you do something like that again, you will die." This one line would explain why he dies in The Last Jedi. So then they come up with a plan to make sure that the two of them don't die. This is where the map comes in. They make the map for the specific use of one being able to find the other. Keep in touch for part 2. Part 2 of how they can make Mara Jade Skywalker canon. So I left off in the last video with maps, and I actually think that they made 2 maps. One, so people can be able to find Luke, as we know, and then the second one, so Luke can find Mara. But the only person that knows about the second map is Luke himself, because he hid it on the planet that he was hiding at. And the planet that Mara Jade Skywalker is hiding on should be Tython. The reason why I'm saying Tython is because it has a lot of lore regarding the Jedi. It's filled with mountains, trees, forests, everything. It's perfect. There's even a few tribes of Twi'leks living there, so she would be completely safe and nobody would look for her. Not only this, but she can train as a Jedi or Great Jedi at Tython with all the different Jedi artifacts and other. So Luke tells Rey where to get the map, and then she goes to map leading to the next trilogy. Now that I have explained Mara for the most part, I am going to continue on with this and kind of like explain the rest of the movie that I think should happen, like protagonist and antagonist wise, and just the rest. The main antagonist, however, would be Darth Nihilus. You're probably thinking to yourself, how would he be the main villain? Isn't he part of the Old Republic? Yes, he is. However, in the Star Wars universe, there are these things called Force Rifts. Force Rifts are pretty much time rifts, just made through the Force in the Star Wars universe. So I'm thinking about seconds before he dies in the Old Republic, he is put through one of these Force Rifts randomly and sends him to the future to where Rey and Mara Jade Skywalker are. However, after this, he is extremely injured and walks around the planet that he arrives on, just sucking the life from others. What I think should happen in Episode 10, Part 2. So through the Force Rift, Nihilus arrives on, get this, Tatooine. And there is his family, a father, a mother, and a daughter. The father doesn't know who Nihilus is, but all he sees is that he's injured, and the father is a medic. So he nurses him back to health, and Nihilus, thanks to him, is sucking the life force from him, his wife, and his daughter, making him a lot healthier and a lot younger in the process. After he does this, he realizes that he doesn't have his lightsaber with him. However, he can feel the life of a couple of kyber crystals not that far away. So he steals a speeder after killing the guy with Force Life Drain and speeds off to where he can sense the kyber crystals. And when he does this, he finds both Luke and Leia's lightsabers. He digs them up, takes the crystals out of them, and turns them from blue crystals to red ones. Puts the crystals back in the lightsabers, and now they're red. Continue for part 3. How I think Star Wars Episode 10 should be part 3. So we left off in the last video with Nihilus finding Luke and Leia's lightsabers, but let's go ahead and focus on Rey for a second. While this is happening, Rey, Finn, Poe, and Rose are all at Maz Kanata's palace. Since this is episode 10, Maz Kanata's palace has been rebuilt. Rey feels a disturbance in the Force when Nihilus turns Luke and Leia's lightsaber crystals into red lightsaber crystals. So the four of them take the Millennium Falcon, go to Tatooine while Chewie stays behind to catch up with his girlfriend Maz Kanata. They get there just in time to see Nihilus finish constructing his two new lightsabers, both red. So a battle goes down between the four of them. They are losing, so Rose decides to call in backup. Right after Rose is finished calling the resistance, Nihilus grabs her and sucks the life from her, killing her in the process. Everybody stands there in shock. They dispatch backup, get in the Millennium Falcon, and flee. How I think Star Wars Episode 10 should be Part 4. Now that Rose is dead, and the other three, Poe, Finn, and Rey, are now trying to look for help to try to take on the Sith, to try to take on Nihilus. And right as they're doing it, they feel a pull. This pull is Nihilus trying to pull the Millennium Falcon back down to the planet. A couple of Resistance fighter ships arrive just in time to shoot Nihilus, but when this happens, he deflects the blaster shots from the ship off and pulls down the Resistance ship. The ship crashes, and just as the Millennium Falcon is exiting the atmosphere of Tatooine, he pulls in the fighter of that ship and takes the life away from him. Rey, Finn, and Poe are all like, "Bro, how are we gonna stop this guy? We need help." So Rey lays down and meditates just in time for her to communicate with a Force ghost Luke Skywalker. And Luke tells them to go find his daughter, Mara Jade Skywalker. Part 5 coming up! How I think Star Wars Episode 10 should be Part 5. So Rey, Finn, Poe are on the Millennium Falcon and they're communicating with a Force ghost Luke Skywalker. Luke says that they need to find his daughter, Mara Jade Skywalker. I know you hardcore fans are probably like, wait, but isn't Mara Jade Skywalker Luke's wife in the comics? Yes, however, I feel like for more of like the plot of this movie and just with the way that Disney rolls, I feel like it would make a lot more sense to have her be his daughter in canon, because I just feel like it works a lot better. So he explains to them that back when Kylo Ren burnt down the Jedi Hut, he made 2 maps, one of them only he knew. That map leads to Mara Jade Skywalker. And he said that he hid it on the planet that he was hiding at. So they go to the planet that Luke was at, find the map, and then head over to find Mara. They follow her to the planet called Tython. When they find her, she is fighting off a Sith acolyte. Keep in touch for Part 6. How Star Wars Episode 10 should be Part 6. So we left off with Mara Jade Skywalker fighting a Sith acolyte. For those of you that don't know, a Sith acolyte is pretty much the Sith version of a Padawan. A acolyte is what the Sith would be before they got their master, so it's while they are still in training, but before they are the apprentice to a Sith master. So after Mara fights it off, she sees Rey and everybody else. They explain to her who they are and what they have been through and pretty much what happened within the past trilogy. Then they explain why they're looking for her. They explain Nihilus and everything that happened. As this is happening, they're getting calls from a lot of different resistant fighters. And all of these calls are the same thing. They are calls about random Siths appearing out of nowhere inside different resistant bases. This is when we learn the plot of the movie. There are thousands of rifts appearing within the galaxy, and with every rift, a new Sith appears. What Star Wars Episode 10 should be Part 7, and this is the final episode. Let me just clear up some things. This movie would take place about 2 to 3 years after the events of Episode 9. This makes sure that Rose's and Finn's relationship has grown to the point where Rose's death in Episode 10 would be a lot more impactful. It also gives Finn a lot more character development. And with the inclusion of Mara Jade Skywalker, it makes Rey less of a Mary Sue. And the plot would go somewhat like this. Force rifts or time rifts have opened in different parts of the galaxy. Both Nihilus and Mara can sense where these force rifts are after they happen. And they both see an opportunity to make their own army out of this. I'm even planning on adding in some pretty famous Jedi and Sith into this. A famous Jedi that I would add is Revan before he turned to the dark side. And he would be played by Keanu Reeves, I mean who else would play him? And a famous Sith would be Tulak Hord. This would by far be the best Star Wars movie.